Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is a strength that speaks louder than 1,000 words. When a man says he doesn't love you, don't rush to prove you are worthy of love. Don't explain, don't justify, don't beg. Stay silent. Because in that moment, it's not you who needs love. It's him who is incapable of giving it. Oscar Wilde once said, "A man can be happy with any woman as long as he does not love her." A terrifying, precise, and honest phrase. When a man doesn't love, he can be with anyone. Because the absence of love requires no effort. It asks for no sacrifice, no growth, no inner honesty. To love is to embrace pain, to grow, to choose, which means to give up comfort. If a man says he doesn't love, he's telling the truth. Stay silent. Don't try to draw love out of emptiness. Don't try to light a flame where there isn't even a wick laid down. Wilde also wrote, "Life is far too important a thing ever to talk seriously about it." And sometimes therein lies the key to freedom. Stop taking his words as a sentence. Sometimes rejection is release. Sometimes the words, "I don't love you," aren't a tragedy. They are an honest sign. You're not where you're meant to be. Leave. Return to yourself. It's not about you, it's about him. Because a woman worthy of love doesn't lose her value just because someone doesn't know how to love her. Wilde was ironic, sarcastic, but always precise. He knew the cost of solitude, the theater of feelings, the weight of pretense, and he would have told you, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. Be silent and wait, but not for him. Not for the one who cannot love. Wait for yourself, until you hear your own heart say again, "I exist, I matter, I am enough." When faced with indifference, don't scream, don't fight the wind. Sometimes you simply need to stop. A woman who knows how to stay silent in the face of rejection is a woman who can hear the most important truths. She hears the sound of a new woman growing within her, free, calm, walking away, not because she was pushed out, but because she chose herself. When love leaves, silence enters the room. Don't disturb it, let it be. Because it's within silence that the answers are born. It's there you'll hear the most important voice, your own. Oscar Wilde had a gift for catching the subtle. "Consistency is the last refuge of the unimaginative," he said. And you are not consistent. You are changeable, deep, light, and dark all at once. You weren't made to be unloved. You were made for depth, for sincerity, for mutuality. And when a man says he doesn't love, he denies himself the chance to truly know you. He's not walking away from you. He's walking away from that part of himself that is still not ready to love from the heart. You didn't lose. You opened up, and he was afraid of the light. Remember, love that lacks courage turns into silence, and you're no longer silent inside. You say to yourself, "I will stay, but not with him, with myself." Wilde wrote, "Some cause happiness wherever they go, others whenever they go." And this is not about bitterness, it's about honesty. There are people whose absence feels lighter than their presence. And when a man admits he doesn't love you, he gives you freedom, even if he doesn't realize it. You are free not because you weren't chosen, but because you no longer wait. You don't judge. You don't seek revenge. You simply retreat into yourself to return stronger. A woman who can remain silent in the moment of pain possesses extraordinary wisdom. She knows that feelings should never be forced. And if a man doesn't feel, she will not waste words. Because true love is not persuasion, it is resonance. And if no one hears you, maybe you're simply in the wrong frequency. Oscar Wilde once wrote, "We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars." You may be in pain, but you are still capable of looking up. Be silent, look to the sky, and know the love you're waiting for begins within. You are already a star, and when someone doesn't notice your light, it's not because you're not shining, it's because they turned away. There is silence that frightens, and silence that heals. When you're quiet after hearing, "I don't love you," you begin to hear what noise had once drowned out. You hear who you truly are. "Women are meant to be loved, not to be understood," said Oscar Wilde. And this isn't superficial, it's profound truth. You don't need to be explained. You are not a puzzle to be solved. You are a feeling. Either it lives in a person or it doesn't. When a man says he doesn't love, it's not a reason to doubt yourself. It's a reason to ask, do I want to be with someone who needs to be convinced I deserve love? In a world where everything demands proof, love is one of the few truths that should be felt without words. You don't have to shrink to fit into someone's small soul. Don't change yourself to be understood. Be yourself, to be truly recognized. Wilde wrote, "There are only two tragedies in life. One is not getting what you want, the other is getting it." The irony of life is this. Sometimes we're not unloved because something is wrong with us, but because love demands responsibility. Some men fear that depth. They fear loving for real. They fear getting lost in a woman who is too real. But you are not too much. You are exactly what you are meant to be. When a man says, "I don't love you," perhaps what he's really saying is, "I'm afraid to love a woman like you." But you are not made for fear. You are made for strength, for growth, for the kind of love that doesn't run from difficulty, but walks through it with an open heart. Don't demean yourself with questions like, "What's wrong with me?" Ask yourself a different question. Why did I even want to stay where I wasn't loved? And find the answer within. A woman who can walk away without scandal, without drama, without a scene, is a woman before whom true love will one day kneel. Because she doesn't cling, she chooses. She is not afraid of being alone. Because she knows, within her, there is a home. A man who doesn't love will never understand the kind of woman he lost. But the woman who was not loved will one day realize the kind of man she never wanted to win back. That is maturity. That is an inner victory. The pain you feel now is not the end. It is the beginning of returning to yourself. Oscar Wilde understood the irony of life. He knew how to fall and still preserve dignity. And he would have told you, each of us has something hidden inside that we never show anyone. And that is your strength, that which you haven't revealed, that which you guard for those who are capable of seeing it. Love isn't about being chosen. Love is about being seen, fully, without fear, without conditions. When a man says he doesn't love, he refuses to see. He chooses blindness. And you are not obligated to light the way for someone who insists on keeping his eyes closed. Sometimes you must leave quietly, so quietly that even the echo won't know where you've gone. And that silence becomes your armor. A woman who leaves in silence does not leave pain behind. She leaves space for revelation. You didn't lose. You simply chose not to play in a game where the price was your self-worth. Wilde once wrote, "To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist, that is all. When you truly live, you can feel pain without dissolving in it. You can be rejected and still choose yourself. You can hear, 'I don't love you,' and not fall apart, but grow stronger. That's what it means to live, truly. It's not about revenge. It's not about proving anything. It's about knowing deep inside, if not him, then someone else. If not now, then later. But the love meant for me will find me where I am already whole." You are no longer broken. You are simply being renewed. You're like a book that was closed on one page. But this is not the end. It's a pause, to be read again with different eyes. Oscar Wilde once said, "Never love anyone who treats you like you're ordinary." You are not ordinary. You are unique. And if someone failed to see that, it's not your fault. It's their blindness. And you're not silent out of resentment. You're silent out of dignity. You're not waiting for someone to come back. You're waiting for yourself, renewed, clear, strong. A man who doesn't love you may whisper it or shout it. He may leave silently or stay cold and indifferent, but you will always feel it. You'll feel it not through words, but in the pauses between them, not by his gaze, but by the absence of it. The real pain isn't in what he said. It's in the fact that you kept hoping even when everything was already clear. Oscar Wilde said, "Nowadays people know the price of everything and the value of nothing." Many men know how to win a woman, but don't know how to keep her. They know how to play, but not how to hold on. You are not a price. You are a value. You're not a trophy to be forgotten on a shelf. You are life itself, meant to be felt, protected, and chosen every single day. When a man says he doesn't love you, he isn't hurting you. He's revealing a truth you already knew. Your intuition always knew. You just didn't want to believe it. You made excuses, you waited, you dreamed. But now, you are silent. And in that silence is your growth. Because a woman who stops fighting for love, who doesn't beg, doesn't plead, doesn't chase, is a woman who becomes powerful. Powerful to those who don't know how to love, because they can no longer hold her with illusion. She is returning to herself. Wilde wrote, "True sincerity is a rare and wonderful thing, and that's what you are. Sincere, genuine, and that's why it hurts. But that's also what makes you alive. You won't close your heart. You won't become hard. You'll simply become selective. Let your pain become your filter. Let it separate the false from the real. And in that, you are not weak. You are wise. You won't become the one who seeks revenge. You'll become the one whose absence will be remembered, because you left, quietly, without drama, without a scene. You simply didn't stay. A woman who doesn't cling is a woman no one can chase anymore." One day, the man who told you, "I don't love you," will realize those weren't just words. It was the moment he didn't just lose a woman, he lost an entire world. But by then, you won't look back. You'll be far away, where you are loved, deeply, gently, respectfully, without games. Love doesn't ask for proof. It simply exists. And when it's gone, you feel it immediately. You might try to fool yourself, convince yourself it's temporary, that he's tired, that he's lost, that he's afraid. But a woman always knows when she's no longer being chosen, every day, with every thought, with every gesture. And when a man says, "I don't love you," it may sound like a blow, but in truth, it's liberation. Oscar Wilde once wrote, "Everything is forgiven except sincerity." And you were sincere. You loved the way only a woman can love, not by playing, but by feeling. You gave your soul, you tried. You dreamed not of a fairy tale, but of something real. And now you are silent, not because you have nothing to say, but because words are no longer necessary. You don't argue with someone else's truth. You simply return to your own. The paradox is, a man may realize what he lost only when you no longer look his way, and you don't look back out of pride, but from a place of inner quiet, because you are no longer there. You're already in another dimension, where love doesn't need to be begged for, where you are chosen, without hesitation, without fear, without conditions. You are not obligated to be the one who understands everything. You have the right to be misunderstood and still loved. You don't have to be convenient. You have the right to be yourself. Wilde understood how truth can sound both fragile and powerful. He wrote, "To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance, and that is your path. Not to wait, not to suffer, but to begin the most important romance with yourself. You deserve to be embraced not only by hands, but with attention, to be seen not only for your body, but for your soul. And if a man can't see that, he's not the one for you." A woman who knows her worth no longer accepts crumbs. She doesn't create drama. She doesn't belittle herself. She simply no longer stays where she isn't loved. She rises, she walks away, and with every step she hears that question fade inside her. Why him? And louder grows another. Why not me? When a woman stops waiting, she returns to herself, not to the one who hoped, endured, searched for fault within, but to the one she was before the doubts, before the pain, before the words of another pierced her heart like a needle. And in that silence after his confession, what is born is not emptiness, but clarity. Oscar Wilde wrote, "Sometimes we destroy the ones we love. Sometimes we love the ones who destroy us." You loved, and that was your strength, even if that love was never returned. You didn't make a mistake by choosing him. One day you'll simply understand that he was just a step on the path to your true self. Because pain is not the enemy, it is a mirror. You look into it and ask, where did I lose myself? And you hear, right where you started trying to prove you were worthy of love. But you are worthy without proof, without explanations, without a fight. You are breath, you are light, you are the way. And if someone didn't feel that, it's simply because they never learned to breathe deeply. A woman who understands that the absence of love is not a sentence, but a chance to relearn how to be with herself, becomes unreachable for those who wanted only her body, but not her soul. Wilde once said, "Every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to hurt. You're allowed to cry. But your future begins the moment you refuse to suffer for those who are incapable of loving you." Your life is not a rough draft. You don't owe anyone a rewrite for their convenience. You are the final version, alive, strong, deep. You are not simply a woman who wasn't loved. You are a woman who survived, who grew, who bloomed. You are not pain. You are the answer. And one day you'll meet a pair of eyes with no fear of your strength. There will be respect. There will be tenderness. There will be silence, but not emptiness. A silence that feels like home. Until then, stay quiet, not out of pride, but out of love for yourself. Because the love that begins within will never again accept half measures. You didn't lose a man, you found yourself. The loss of love is not a tragedy if in its absence you learn to love yourself even more. You didn't become cold, you became warm, but only for those who know how not to be burned, but how to cherish warmth. Oscar Wilde once said, "The heart was made to be broken." And he was right. Sometimes it's in a broken heart that something true begins to grow. You're no longer the woman who believed in words. Now you believe in actions. You're not the one who clings. Now you choose. The silence after hearing "I don't love you," it's not weakness. It's a form of deep self-respect. You don't cling to the one who didn't choose you. You're not climbing a rope made of illusions. You've come down to the ground where you can finally breathe, where you can walk again. Wilde wrote, "Feelings are the most important thing we have. Everything else is just noise. And if you've felt pain, you've been truly alive. That means you haven't closed off. That means you're still capable of loving, but differently now. You no longer save. You don't heal. You don't endure. You choose yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of maturity. You haven't withdrawn from the world. You've simply stopped letting into your heart those who don't know how to cherish it. Because when a man says he doesn't love, he might really be saying, "I'm not ready. I don't know how. I'm incapable." And that is his path, his lesson, his pain, and you have your own. You no longer stand in the doorway where no one is waiting for you. You don't shout into the void. You don't beg for feelings. You simply walk away. And the further you are from pain, the closer you are to yourself. A woman who has lived through indifference becomes the one who can no longer be deceived by sweet words, because she knows if there's no warmth in the eyes, then the heart is silent. And now you hear not just words, but the silence between them. And if that silence doesn't carry love, you won't stay. You're not the one who waits for feelings to awaken. You're the one they come to when they've already learned how to feel. You walked through the night, through words that cut like blades and silence that was louder than any confession. You stayed with yourself, and in that, you awakened. You didn't become smaller, you became more whole. Oscar Wilde said, "The greatest happiness in life is the conviction that we are loved." But he also knew that before we can be loved, we must learn to be sure of ourselves. You no longer ask, "Why didn't he choose me?" Now you ask, "Why did I choose someone who couldn't feel?" That's not self-blame, that's grown-up honesty. You chose from need, not from depth. You hoped your love would change him. But now you know. True love doesn't need to be convinced. True love sees and knows instantly it's her. You're no longer fighting for a place in someone else's life. You're creating space in your own, and someone will appear there who won't hesitate. Wilde was a keen observer of the human soul. He knew how to see past appearances to the essence, and his words could cut, but only to awaken. It's not enough to be beautiful. You must also be interesting. But you are both, beautiful and deep. And now the only thing you need is not to prove, but simply to be. A woman who stops waiting for love from where it does not exist becomes magnetic. She walks down the street and it may seem she's alone, but in truth, she walks with an entire world within her. With her walks her past, everything she's been through. With her walk the wounds, stitched with golden threads. With her walks the strength, grown from disappointment. And now she smiles, not because everything is perfect, but because she is free. When a man says he doesn't love, it's not a collapse. It's the end of an illusion. And a woman who has survived illusions will never again trade reality for a mirage. She knows, if love is not warmth, not care, not presence, then it isn't love. It's projection. You're no longer in a rush. You're no longer searching. You wait, but not for a man. You wait for the silence in your heart. You wait for peace. You wait for that moment when love is no longer pain, but becomes home. And it will come, quietly, without fanfare, but with eyes that say, "I see you, and I am not afraid." Your story is not about him. It is about you, about how you survived the words that could have broken you, but didn't. About how you embraced the pain and didn't grow bitter. About how you heard, "I don't love you," and didn't disappear inside those words, but found the strength to remain with yourself. Oscar Wilde said, "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken." And maybe that is the real outcome of your journey. You no longer wear masks. You no longer adjust yourself. You no longer chase love. You simply walk at your own pace with your own soul, and that is enough. You know that love doesn't ask for proof. It doesn't demand pain. It isn't a battle, it's a meeting. When a man says he doesn't love, it's not a sentence. It's an invitation to return to yourself. And now, you are different. You look in the mirror and no longer see the woman who begged him to stay. You see the woman who chose to leave. You are not bitter. You are grown. You are calm. You are strong. Because you walked through unlove and didn't lose your ability to love. And that is rare. You've learned the hardest magic, to be with yourself when everyone else is gone, to believe in yourself when no one else does, and to smile even after your heart has fallen. Wilde once said, "Life is not about what happens to us. It's about how we respond to it." You chose not to break. You chose to grow, and in that is your victory. The man who once said to you, "I don't love you," may forget the sound of your voice, but he will never forget your silence, because within it there was no weakness. There was farewell. And one day you will hear different words from a different man, with a different gaze, a different soul, and you will understand why you had to go through all of it to become the woman who is impossible not to love.